Okay guys, this is the video that you have all been waiting for. Initio Parfums Paragon fragrance review. I finally have it. Well, I've had it for a while now. This is the fragrance that you guys have been messaging me about, asking me if I'm going to review it. I started receiving messages probably like a week before I left, maybe a little over a week before I left Europe to come back home. And I didn't get a chance to get to sample this in Europe, so as soon as I arrived, I went to Neiman Marcus to see if they had it because they carry Initio Parfums there. They did not have it, so I ended up ordering my bottle from Lucky Scent. And I've been wearing it and testing it out here and there while I've had it here and finally getting this video up. So I'm going to let you know all about this particular fragrance. I know you guys are curious, so stick around to find out what I think about it. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about Initio Parfums Paragon, a brand spanking new release from the house of Initio Parfums. This is in the white bottle, and I feel like it fits in this collection. Although the last fragrance in this collection, Musk Therapy, was super amazing. I really loved it. But in comparison to this fragrance, I feel like that fragrance is a bit of a weakling, as this one's really intense for what you get. So, but they're completely different fragrances, but also I feel like they're somehow connected, including Rehab in the same collection as well. So I feel like it's kind of like an evolution, but let me explain to you. Before I get to the review though, if this is your first time tuning into this channel and you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And as I said, I bought this from Lucky Scent. I do have a link in the info box if you're curious to go check it out. There's a little bit of a promo there I think I saw recently as I was taking my notes down for this fragrance. But this is a 2022 launch. There's no perfumer mentioned for this fragrance, and I don't know why Initio Parfums doesn't mention perfumers' names. I'm always curious who creates what, but we'll get past that for now. The price size for this is quite pricey. It's 90 ml for $370, almost $400 for a 90 ml bottle, so it is pretty expensive. But this is Extrait de Parfum concentration, so it's super long lasting. And as I was saying, in comparison to Musk Therapy does last, but it doesn't have the projection and sillage. It's pretty much a skin scent for me, but a very fresh, and I feel like that fragrance is really a perfect kind of scent to wear in the heat. Whereas this one, I feel like it's the opposite. It's really intense, it's overwhelming, and a little goes a long way, but I feel like because it's super fruity, it doesn't really overwhelm that much. Does that make sense? Super fruity fragrances, or just fruity fragrances in general, are easier to wear, whereas if this was something like an oud or really intense notes of some kind, it could be really, you know, heavy and cloying and overwhelming. So the fruitiness in this particular fragrance makes it for a little easier wear, if that makes sense. So this is definitely Extrait de Parfum concentration, and you definitely experience that. So if you guys are questioning the price and everything like that, and how well it performs and things like that, definitely I feel like this particular fragrance, even though it is priced really high, I feel like if you have the budget, it's definitely worth it for what you get. The notes for Paragon are Bergamot, white sage, lavender, plum, Palo Santo, black pepper, sandalwood, Agarwood. So this is what the notes are, and for me, when you spray this fragrance for the first time or whenever you're wearing it, the initial blast is super fruity, and it's a really fruity touch from the plum, but it's sweet, juicy. You experience the juiciness. There's a wet drippiness about this. A little bit of tartness as well, but I feel like this is a sweet plum with that little bit of tartness. It's not a really tart sour plum with a light sweetness, if that makes sense. So there's definitely a sweetness here for sure. It's got that juiciness. You really experience it. Just imagine biting into a plum and it's drippy, it's ripened. There's not much tartness left on that plum. It's gotten very sweet, and that's what you get with this one. So that's the initial blast with this, and I like this part. And I've been digging into plum fragrances. Gonna do another video for you guys, so get prepared for that. I've been compiling plum fragrances, so really into the idea of plums. And this definitely lives up to the plum experience. It's very plummy, but as I said, it's super ripened with light tartness, and it's super drippy, because as I was saying, when you bite into it, it's gotten ripe, There's lots of juice there. It's dripping down. That's how I experience with this one. But you know what? There's also lots of aromatics here. Lavender is really, really big here. So there's the herbal experience here. Herbal touch with the white sage. So there's an overwhelming amount of aromatics here to kind of like contrast with that juicy, sweet, light tartness of the plum note that's in here. And I feel like that also the bergamot that's up top really does connect with the plum. It enhances the juiciness of the fruity experience of the plum here. So when the fragrance is drying down, you're starting to experience woods. There's lots of woods here, and there's definitely a creamy touch from the sandalwood. It's definitely present here. It goes on very, very creamy, or I should say dries down very, very creamy here. And I like that about this one. And I feel like sandalwood was present in Rehab, and I think sandalwood was also present in Musk Therapy. So I feel like this white bottle collection does have kind of a cohesion, a connection, a relation kind of a thing happening. And some of the notes kind of like interchange. I feel like Rehab had the lavender in there. This one also has the lavender. So when this is drying down and the fruitiness is going away, I do have to say the fruitiness doesn't really go away with this one. It's an overwhelming amount of plum, so the fruitiness doesn't go away. But sometimes fragrances that are really, really fruity up top, they seem to disappear and you're left with what's only in the base, as in some of the cherry fragrances I was talking about recently in the cherry fragrances video. This fruitiness sticks around for a long time. But when you're starting to notice that the plumness is going away, it starts to remind me of some of the other fragrances from the collection. Lightly, faintly, not overwhelming. So that's why I feel like there's a connection here with this particular fragrance. Especially with Rehab, I feel like the Palo Santo in here, and even though Rehab, I get a tobacco-ish touch with that fragrance, I feel like there's a little bit of a smokiness there with the lavender, and I feel like here with the Palo Santo it has a little bit of smokiness, definitely woodiness, and with the lavender mixed in together kind of gives me that similar connection with Rehab as well. But again, with an overdose of plum here, because this is a very, very plummy fragrance, and I like that about it. But here's the thing, I like this fragrance a lot, but for me, if I had to pick this or Musk Therapy, I do prefer Musk Therapy, even though Musk Therapy is a wimp compared to this. Does that make sense? I connect to Musk Therapy much more than this. But I'm not saying this is a bad fragrance. It smells great. It's super strong. It's really, really plummy. It's juicy, fruity. Definitely an autumn fragrance, but definitely carried into winter as well because of its intensity. I still connect to Musk Therapy much more. It's much more my style. Does that make sense? And again, there's nothing bad with this fragrance. I much prefer Musk Therapy because of the musk in that particular fragrance. But I think this is definitely a solid release. It's definitely a little overpriced, but I like what I'm smelling, and I think it'll be a pretty popular fragrance for folks that like Initio Parfums or people that are into plum fragrances. And again, I like the idea of plum. I'm looking into a lot of different plum fragrances. If you know of any, do let me know, put a comment down, and also let me know, have you sampled the Paragon and are you curious to sample it? One last thing I should say, I've noticed some chatter on comments here on videos, and some people were saying this leans feminine and other people were saying this leans masculine. I'm gonna say it's right down the middle. It's very, very unisex for me because it's got that fruitiness and it's got the woods, it balances it out, you know? I think that's what I'm going to say about it. It's very unisex for me. It doesn't lean feminine, it doesn't lean masculine. So if you guys were on the fence, I suggest order a sample to test it out. I think that's the best way, or go to a store and smell it and see what you think about the fragrance. But it's definitely a great fragrance, and the fact that I'm saying I connect more to Musk Therapy doesn't make this a bad fragrance. I think it's definitely a job well done, and I think Initio Parfums will sell a lot of fragrances. The only other thing I do want to mention, I haven't seen this kind of bronze colored front here and cap before from Initio Parfums, so this is kind of new to me, but I feel like that kind of takes on the color of the plum. It's not necessarily too purple, but sort of kind of going into that kind of antique-y, kind of reddish, bronze looking kind of color. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Initio Parfums Paragon. Let me know if you've sampled it. Let me know if you're curious to sample it. after watching this video, do let me know. And what are your favorite Initio Parfums fragrances? Are they one of your favorite brands? Do let me know. Put a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.